Welcome everyone, Marcelo is my name. Pana Dora, a house that I fell in love with many years ago, and one thing that I quickly learned is don't look at the notes. The notes as a reference guide can be very confusing, and also the classic pyramid of bop, boom, bing isn't necessarily the way the fragrance plays out. You got to think more about the composition. There's a story being told here, and yes, those notes exist in the fragrance, but they are delivered in such a unique way. If you're new to the house of Pana Dora, these three fragrances is one I would recommend. And I selected them for their versatility, great for a man or a woman any time of the year. And secondly, for their narrative. We're talking about a Syrian-born man who's the perfumer living in a Nordic environment of Sweden. When I think of Sweden, my first thoughts are to a movie called Midsummer, in which it is a horror movie, so I don't think these are not intense animalic fragrances, but I do think of the landscape in that movie, which is a lot of woodlands. It's very green, it's very forested, and it's very open spaces. And this is, I guess, when I think of Sweden, this is what the image that it projects for me. But when it comes to perfumery, I think of Byredo, another Swedish brand. And they're very pared back, very minimalist, black and white. I mean, from a distance, you couldn't tell the difference between the fragrances. Whereas all of a sudden here, Ibrahim, the perfumer, has really leaned into the embracing of that Swedish landscape, primarily with these beautiful deer heads. It gives it an air of mysticism, of nobility, and something more than just the classic IKEA, very minimalist sort of, or Byredo black and white style. The fragrances also really lean into his Syrian-born background, the very Middle Eastern, the spicy notes. He plays a lot with oud, and there are two oud fragrances here which will surprise you when it comes to the way that they perform. When I first commenced my collection with Pana Dora, I started with a monster, XV1, boom. This one here is potent, strong, woody. It's not for everyone. If you like those beastly, powerful fragrances, you can check out this episode here. It's a fantastic fragrance for those people who I would name either 5-star generals or even supreme leaders. What we're going to begin with is something very accessible, something very easy, something that is a little bit deemed as masculine leaning, but truthfully, a woman can easily wear this. Now, what I've done, I'm in the dry down here. I've been here for about 3 hours. I do want to talk about the dry down, but it's the opening where it's ensnaring. It captures you instantly. And there it is. And this is where I begin my don't look at the notes conversation, because on that opening, it talks about a grapefruit and an ambroxan. The clear vision is that it would be a sharpish grapefruit, citrus, tangy in its profile, with that ambroxan giving it the slight sea aquatic nature of the fragrance, which is partly correct, but it's missing one facet, and that is it has this very sweet mandarin-like element to it. Grapefruit for me, or grapefruit in fragrances, as I mentioned, is sharp and tart and tangy. I think of fragrances like Vibrato or even Elysium, where they tend to come out with a little bit more of that citrus sharpness, whereas here I'm finding this very beautiful, sweet note that is lingering in the background that reminds me of the mandarin. Like a perfect mandarin note blended in with a slightly sweet and juicy grapefruit note, as opposed to the tart and tangy. So I find that Aqua de Dora tends to be a little bit more linear than the other two. Where it begins is pretty much where it takes you throughout the journey, even keeping that grapefruit note. Another thing that I've said previously is I think that ambroxan on that opening almost seals down that grapefruit note, because the grapefruit as a citrus note is very volatile. I find that the opening of Vibrato, for instance, beautiful grapefruit that comes shining through, but then it migrates across to the florals and the woodiness. A little bit of that grapefruit is still present, but not as well. Whereas here, as I said, 3 hours deep, I'm still getting the fun, sweet grapefruit citrus part with some other elements coming through. I find that this fragrance is beautiful as a spring or sunshine style of fragrance. Even if you're having a miserable let's say you're in the middle of winter, this would bring sunshine. The sweet notes, the citrus component of it is a fragrance style that can be for anybody. So this is not just relegated to a man. A woman can comfortably enjoy this too. Now, in the heart, there is a note of fig. This is my fig tree. So I have a Calabrian purple fig growing in my backyard. It was purposely put there by my father-in-law years ago when they first came to Australia, brought a cutting from Calabria, and this is a cutting from a cutting, essentially. This is my beautiful fig tree. I have to cover it, otherwise the birds will go crazy when it comes to this tree. And now have a look at these beautiful figs. And this is one that I picked this morning from the tree. Now I picked it a little bit green. Normally I like to allow the full purple to sort of evolve across the actual fruit itself. But I wanted to give you what the scent profile of this is. Because I've read in some places that people go, oh yeah, I love the slight fig note that comes out on Aqua de Dora. I don't get that. And that's based on, I do love fig fragrances. I have a nice collection of them. And also I love the actual scent profile of what the fig delivers. Okay, fig. So what you get here is a jamminess, the sweetness, and especially it's very relevant because of this purple fig that it is. The fig fruit, because it has its own scent profile. And then a touch of green now here. I'm not getting that. So I tend to find that fig fragrances are a little bit on the juicy or the fruit or the green. They're the sort of profiles that it plays. I'm not questioning the fact that Ibrahim, who is the perfumer, actually put fig into the fragrance, or he listed it as a fig note. I'm going to say it does exist. What I'm actually getting instead is more of a fruit sweetness intermingled with a creamy element to it. I know there's also chestnut as listed as one of the ingredients. For me, chestnut should be a little bit nutty. I don't get that nuttiness, but I do get a sweet, fruity creaminess in the profile of the fragrance, mixed in now, as I said, 3 hours deep, with a touch of that grapefruit coming through. It celebrates, in my opinion, the aquatic nature. It celebrates sunshine. It does celebrate a very beautiful spring or even summer landscape. I found that the performance on the fragrance is fantastic. You're getting 6+ hours, especially being that it is a citrus-based fragrance, but 6 hours, you're going to get it very cleanly on skin. And when it comes to its sillage and projection, I find that it's in the moderate. It's very comfortable around me. People can detect it. It never goes into a body scent, but it's not a huge room filler either. Boom. And now to eat this baby here. Excuse me. It's so good. The next one I would recommend to you is Orchestra. This is another very easy love. I remember when I first sprayed this, I was with Ibrahim. We were in Cannes. They were showing us the new novelties. And I remember on first spray, I'm like, boom, this is a winner. Now, I'm here because the transition on this fragrance is phenomenal. I'm here also 3 hours deep, but I do want to share the opening of this fragrance because it is a joyous ride and it taps into the word or the name of the fragrance, which is Orchestra. Oh, gorgeous. I mean, forget about it. For those who've been fortunate to go into a concert, but I'm talking an orchestra, a live orchestra with a composer. And that moment before the show begins, when all the instruments are tuning and you're getting all these different instruments all playing randomly, and then all of a sudden they go, it just, all these different noise, and all of a sudden it does this wah, and then they all come together to this final, like, okay, we are now ready. And I find that Orchestra does just that. It's all these notes. And if you look at, I said don't look at the notes, but look at the notes just so you can see the composition of what this fragrance looks like. And you'll see that there's all these different things, the fruit notes and the aromatics and the herbals and the woods and all these different pieces. Literally, when you spray, is like that orchestra. All these different instruments all making a sound, all coming out together, picturing these molecules all just sort of floating through the air. And then finally it does this one, it just settles in, goes to a crispy, fruity place. This is where I am right here. It's bright, it's fruity, there is and look, I can never quite define it other than a green, crisp apple. I believe pear is the actual note that's listed, but I don't get that pearness of it. I mean, I find that pear is a little bit more on the sort of the juicy, more denser side, where it's here, it's bright and it's crisp and it's green and it's fruity. As it begins to move through, it goes into a green herbal place. The juiciness of those early notes retain themselves in there, but the herbals seem to pronounce a lot more. To my nose, I get things like sage, I get things like rosemary, I get even some Arabic style of notes or more oriental notes, such as cumin and coriander and things of that nature. Something a little bit more with a Middle Eastern twist to it. Finally, when it dries down, and this is where I am here. So this is about 3 hours deep. And I defined it as aromatic wood, juicy and green. I mean, how do you, because it's hard to say it's just one thing, because there are so many different facets that are coming through. There are moments of greenness that come through. There is a moment of that green apple that also pops in. Then there are moments of just the woodiness, like a vetiver greenness that also comes in with a, not necessarily earthy, but definitely you can picture the actual stem or the actual leaves of the vetiver. As a confidence maker, as a fragrance to make you change your mindset, to give you a spring in your step, I find that Orchestra is divine. Yesterday was my birthday and I had my birthday celebration. It was my scent of the day. I knew that I was going to be gone for 12 plus hours and I wanted a fragrance that literally made me happy from the moment that I stepped out. We were going out on our scooters. We were running around Melbourne, being young again. Why not? I knew that I wanted something that was vibrant and strong and sunny and just, energetic. The fragrance comfortably took me over that 12-hour period. I find that its sea agent projection is also quite prevalent. You're getting a very confident to high moderate. So it won't push into the super high, but it definitely has a lot of push to it. And then it comes down to more of a moderate scent. I'm on the train coming back, and the scent profile was still very present around me. Again, going back to looking at the notes, it states vanilla. I don't get vanilla in the base. I don't get any level of sweetness. I don't get any, well, obviously no gourmand, period. It also states oud. Now, I don't get any animalics. There are no smokiness, there's no dirtiness in the actual profile of the fragrance. If anything, it's definitely more wood-like, and even to the point, it's almost cedar-like. And I might be thinking that perhaps the oud, which sometimes can have a nuance of cedar qualities, is probably what is happening here. It definitely has the longevity of an oud fragrance. It definitely has that, the more bigger bones, allowing the fragrance to last such a long time. As I mentioned, confident maker, mood enhancer, make you feel happy. And I find that also a woman can comfortably wear this fragrance too. These two here, even though they sort of lean a little bit more masculine because of the wood and the aromatics, I find that boss woman could comfortably wear a fragrance like this. The final fragrance in the lineup is Oud Republic. Now, if I break up that name, you would be instantly scared. I know I was when I first came across it. So I discovered the brand when Kevin used to work at the Oillataguerre boutique. The very first one that, as I mentioned, the very first one that I bought was XV1. Potent, strong, woody, just this, it had bones on it. And when I saw Oud Republic, the Republic of Oud, I thought, this is going to be just way too much. This is going to destroy me. I resisted. Kevin told me to stop being a bit precious and go ahead and spray. And I did. Now, I've been wearing, this is the fragrance I've been wearing the longest. It's about 5 hours now. But the opening of the fragrance was not what I thought it was going to be. The fact that you're calling this Oud Republic, you would think that it would be very animalic, very stinky, very oud forward. But when it opens up, it has this floral jamminess, and that's the best way I can define it. The classic combination is that oud rose, and there is both of those elements in here. But one, I'm not getting any oud, and secondly, I'm not getting the classic rose note pronouncing itself. In fact, I'm getting like a sweetness. I'm getting a very juicy jasmine note. So sometimes I find that orange blossom can be very juicy in its profile with that orange tinge. Here, I'm not getting any of that. So there's no orange blossom as such, but I am getting that white floral jasmine in that same juiciness sort of profile, but no indole, no poopiness, no animalic nature to it. Super inviting, easy to wear. And at this phase here, a man or a woman could easily wear this. So as a man, you would need to be a little bit more comfortable with florals in your fragrance because it does have that floral bouquet to it. From a woman's point of view, very, very easy to wear. And so I'm thinking to myself, so where's this Oud? Where's the Republic of Oud? All right, so of the three, I find that Oud Republic has the most distinct and pronounced evolution, the way it begins and moves through. I find that the middle part of that fragrance is where it now becomes a lot more feminine leaning. And as a man, if you're not comfortable with florals, you'd be like, what in the world just happened to my fragrance? It's gone into a wild place. But when it finally dries down, and like I said, at the 5-hour mark or 5 hours plus, I find that it goes into this beautiful balance of the oud, the amber, and then this rose. But none of it really oversteps its mark. In the beginning, there's a lot more pronounced features to the fragrance, but on the dry down, it's the balance between those three elements is just divine. When the fragrance opens up, it does have a jammy floral element to it. This beautiful, inviting, different sensual floral notes, the rose, the jasmine. There is a powderiness in there. You're getting a touch of vanilla and sweetness coming through. When it goes to that midpoint, this is, I mentioned, the hard part for I think most men, because it's now this amplification of the rose, but now with this vanilla touch. So it becomes a very gourmand rose, soft floral essentially. But then finally on that 5-hour mark, it dries down to this beautiful amber rose oud combination. Unlike Orchestra, where the oud is more cedar-like, the oud is a little bit animalic now. There is a touch of dirtiness in there, but never into the full expression of a stinky oud or anything like that. No fecal, no animalic, nothing pungent at all. This is a romantic expression. I mean, if I had the opportunity, I would rename this as Romantic Oud, but it's not as cool, I guess, as Oud Republic. Oud Republic gets your attention. It's sublime. There is a sensuality to it. There's a sense of mystery. For me, this is the perfect cool weather fragrance, or even if it's spring or summer for you guys, you can comfortably wear this as an evening fragrance. It'll take you into the next day without a problem. 12 plus hours is what you'll get. And I do find that the sillage and projection on this is a lot higher than the others. It does have a lot more push, a lot more presence, and definitely when I'm wearing it, those who are around me are very much discerning this fragrance. So there you have it, 3 incredible fragrances from the house of Pana Dora. If you're brand new, I'd recommend any one of these as a perfect place to begin. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What are some that are in your collection that you're enjoying? I have been quietly collecting in the background. From here, I can see all my Pana Doras. Actually, there's more behind me. What else is on your radar? And I'd love to hear what you would recommend to me. Then I'd love to hear what are your thoughts on these 3 here. Do they perform in the way that I explained them? I'd love to get your insight. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to seeing everyone on the next episode.
You know it, sure, you'll be calling out my name.